Welcome once again to the Game Sense Football Podcast. Today we have with us a special guest, seasoned sports broadcaster and commentator Shazad Haq. And we talk about his work as a football commentator, how his fandom of Spurs has affected his family life, and a few of his biggest bugbears about the game. So you're not going to want to miss this one. So Nas, is there anything that you and your wife strongly disagree upon with each other constantly?
Oh, she listens to this, so I guess I have to be careful about what I say. So one of the things we do disagree upon is how the dishes are washed, or at least how I wash the dishes. She likes to stack everything in the sink. I like to wash everything individually.
What does stacking everything in the sink mean?
She wants all the dirty plates stacked in the sink, soaked in the water while I wash, but while each one is being washed. I prefer fewer things in the sink, washing each individually and then putting them aside to dry.
So that means you leave your dirty dishes on the countertop and you put them into the sink one by one to wash?
Yeah, one by one. I mean, maybe two by two, but not filled to the brim, not a stack of plates.
Okay, and do you ever argue about these things?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
All right. Okay, cool. So I think I'm with you on this one, actually. I prefer to putting it in like less dishes at a time.
Yeah. For some reason it feels cleaner to me that way.
Yeah. For me, I think it's just easier to manage, it's neater.
Hello, Shazad. How are you doing?
Hey guys, Naz and Ewan, very good to be with you on this podcast.
Very good to have you finally. So let's just jump straight in. I think the very obvious question that we should start with was, how did you start in your role as a commentator and sports broadcaster?
So actually, this goes back more than 20 years ago. I came back from university in London in the year 2000. I had just graduated from a master's in social psychology. It was media and communications. But like many people, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I had to complete my national service. I had another 6 months to go. And I'd always loved sports. I was a very serious, at that time, cricketer. I was playing cricket for Singapore. So, and I was obviously a very avid football watcher. So, I thought maybe sports might be a way to go. My dad told me that he had a friend who worked at ESPN Star Sports, and would I like to meet him and maybe see if there was anything there that could be interesting. His name was Alan Wilkins.
Yes.
I don't think you guys remember it. Yeah, obviously a well-known presenter and commentator himself. So I had a chat with him. Alan said, hey, ESPN Star might be hiring. Why don't we organize something for you, an interview? So a couple of phone calls, and I was told, yeah, we'll have an interview, but the interview was at my house.
At your
I
house?
was asked, yeah, it was at my house, and they said to me, can you name 5 members of the Indian cricket team? Before I could even finish the third name, they're like, okay, you're hired. So, yeah, it was bizarre. I had a friend who I told about this interview. He was an engineer, and he was absolutely desperate to get out of engineering. He was a big cricket fan, and he sent me his CV, and he called me on my landline. I don't think I had a mobile then. And I remember during this interview, I had to just stop the interview, pick up the phone, and he's like, "Did you get my CV? Did you get my CV?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm on the."
So he called you during the interview?
Yeah, because it was in my home, right?
Yeah.
So I had to say, "Excuse me a second," pick up the phone. Goes, "Did you get my CV?" I'm like, "I'm in the interview. I can't do this right now. Okay, I'll look at your CV later." But the guy interviewing me said, "Was that someone asking? Does he know about this job?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Forward me his CV. We're hiring." And that guy also joined ESPN Star Sports.
Oh, okay. Is he
Wow.
still in the industry?
He is. He now works at UEFA. He's based in Switzerland.
Wow.
Okay.
But so he stayed in sports. So yeah, I gave him his big break. Actually, I should be getting more UEFA tickets.
Yeah, you should get commission or something, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Good point. Yeah, that's how I got to ESPN Star, and I started off right at the very bottom as a production assistant. And at that point, commentary was not even on the radar, but they started giving me presenting opportunities. I guess they saw I had some potential, and I definitely didn't want to be doing PA work, which, as you'll know what that is all about. It's like putting graphics on, typing out graphics. It's pretty mundane stuff. It's you know, bottom of the tree stuff, you know,
It's
entry
like
level.
almost like a runner.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And
did you have to get the food for the presenters and guests?
a little bit, yes.
Uh.
So I quickly decided I don't like doing this job. But yeah, I mean, I thankfully I got opportunities, and I was becoming more of a producer presenter by the time I left. And then I joined a sports radio station, which was satellite based, satellite radio.
Mhm.
And while I was there, a friend said to me, "Hey, the company I'm working for, they need some commentary. Do you think you'd want to give it a go for J League?" So this was in 2007. And because I was working in sports radio, I thought, well, this would be an extension of what I do.
Yep.
And I decided to give it a go. I remember just having wads of notes because I was paranoid. In my mind, I couldn't leave a single space quiet.
Okay.
I thought that would be because I come from TV, and as you know, we can't have blank. We can't have anything.
Empty air.
You know, go quiet.
Yeah.
Yes. So I thought I got to speak, and I'm thinking, you know what? No one does that on TV. But I was so nervous of the first time I did it. I just had so much research, so many facts, which of course you don't use 80% of it.
Yeah.
Because there's so much action going on. But yeah, that was my first experience of 2007, and yeah, I guess I haven't looked back since.
So you mentioned earlier you started off as a production assistant, also doing a bit of producing and presenting, working on radio, and then only then becoming more of a commentator. Was there a lot of overlap? Was it easy for you to transition from one to the other?
Well, actually, you know, to be honest, yeah, I did a lot of commentary from 2007 onwards, but I was also doing a lot of presenting as well. So there was a period when I rejoined, ESPN became Fox Sports. I was doing commentary for them anyway from about 2011. So I kind of came back to the company in 2011, and then it became Fox Sports in 2014. And I got hired as a presenter / commentator. So I was one of the very few, if not the only person there who was kind of doing both.
Right.
So sometimes I'd be presenting a show in the evening, and in the afternoon I'd be commentating on a match from the AFC Champions League or AFC Cup, and then I'd be presenting a La Liga at night, stuff like that. It was cool times. I really enjoyed it. But for me, I find one is an extension of the other. Because they're both talking about football, just in a kind of a different form. One is talking about the action as it happens. The other, you're generally doing it either as a preview or a review. So I never found it difficult. And to this day, I don't find it difficult to transition.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that you prepared, a whole stack of notes before your first gig, right, as a commentator. How do you prepare for commentary gigs nowadays as compared to previous times?
Well, and I think I've wisened up a lot since then in that there is such a thing as over preparing. And even now I'm guilty of it, where I feel what I've done needs to be said on air, even to this day, because I put the effort in to get all these facts in. I still need to cram it in. And that's actually not correct, right?
Okay.
Because need to be, for me, this is me anyway. Look, there are people who do things differently. It's got to be situational. You need to see what's going on the TV, because that's what the viewer's looking at, right? So yes, you got to have your prep done, your basics, know about the team, know about the context of the match. We're talking about football here, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the most common one. So let's do football. And for me, you need to have the results of what's happened in the last few games. You need to try and find out team news. Now that's not easy when you're doing Chinese Super League or a few other leagues. They're a bit more hard to get info on.
Yeah.
So some of the more obscure or non-English leagues, or where English is not the first language, it is tough. I can tell you, very tough. But you do what you can. But by and large, you need to call the action play by play. If you're a solo commentator, it is a different vibe to when I have a pundit with me, a color commentator, right? So
yes,
obviously with a color commentator, I only have to do play by play. I do zero analysis. I lay it up for him, and then he takes it away. And I think the key there is to have the prep you need, to me, is actually having that chemistry with the color comms.
Yes.
And I invest a lot of time in getting to know or building up a chemistry with the person I'm with. That I think is actually more valuable than anything else, because if you don't gel with your commentator, your fellow commentator, that's going to come across on air and it's going to sound very, very awkward. So yes, the basic prep's got to be done, definitely. And if it's a league that I'm doing recurrently, like I work on the SPL, that stuff's easy, right? It comes off the top of your head anyway. You're doing it week in, week out.
Yep.
And thankfully, I know the fellow commentators very, very well. So that is pretty straightforward. And just to go back to an earlier question you guys asked me, Naz asked me, how is it commentating and presenting? For SPL, quite often, I have to do the pre-show, run into the commentary area, do that, and then run back into the studio for the halftime show, and then back again for the post. So I'm literally juggling it in one single match.
You brought up having chemistry with co-commentators just now, and you don't have to name names, but has there been any cases where you didn't have chemistry, and how did you deal with it?
Cheeky question. Cheeky question.
Have to ask.
You gotta ask it. Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, there have been commentators where it is clearly not happening.
Okay.
Right? It's not working out. But you have to be a pro. You have to make the best of the situation. Quite often it could be that I wouldn't necessarily call it personality clash, but it would be that person may not be up to mark. Maybe he doesn't think I'm up to mark. I don't know, but it's definitely not gelling, right? And you kind of have to. I've definitely been in situations where I've had to hold the hand. I have to babysit that commentator. So you're almost leading them in to what they need to say.
Right, right.
Again, I'm not going to name names, but I've been in situations where, and I'll say the sport, I'll say it's football, where they are former footballers, and this is like the first or second time they've ever done it.
Yeah.
And they're not comfortable. They're not media trained. All you can do beforehand is you brief them, and then you pray. It comes together. Now, more often than not, it doesn't. They're nervous. They want to give it a go, but they also can't articulate what they want to say. Hey guys, when we watch the Premier League, there are some footballers out there that cannot be pundits or commentators. I think we all know some names.
Yeah.
It's the same, right? And yeah, it's been painful. And I've had texts from people saying, wow, it's harder to get water out of stone type of thing, because I'm getting monosyllabic answers. I'm getting not great analysis, or it's really obvious. Just because you're an ex-player or a coach, it doesn't automatically translate that you could be a pundit or a commentator.
Yeah. I was going to ask if those people were ex-footballers or ex-coaches, because you're right. Sometimes they have an expertise in the game, but it might not it might not come across because of how articulate or comfortable they are, or maybe they're just, sad to say, just not that intelligent sometimes. They have the talent, but I'm not saying they're stupid, but everyone has a different sense of intelligence here. We all know some people like that.
Yes, correct.
You mentioned watching some of the commentators and pundits from overseas, so Premier League was an example. Like, they can't really articulate so well, what they want to say, or some of them are just boring, right? I mean, they can't really have an opinion that interests people. So maybe as part of someone watching football, do you have favorite pundits or commentators out there that you like to watch, you actually enjoy watching?
I get asked this a lot, and I got to say, I don't have a favorite. Everyone's got their own style. There are some which I just don't like that much. I don't, and I got to be very careful, because this is my profession. Even though they don't know me, I don't know them. I think it's commentary is such a divisive thing, right? You quite often it's either you love it or you hate it. Sometimes you get the in-betweeners, right? And it is so subjective, and it's difficult as a commentator to judge other though you very quickly pick out commentators just cannot cut it. When I hear people doing Asian football these days, AFC stuff, they're not from Asia for a start. That is a big bugbear of mine.
Okay.
First of all, you're butchering the names. Secondly, you clearly have no idea about what's going on in Asian football, right? So you're calling what you're seeing. Now, I don't necessarily blame you for that. I've been asked to do Argentinian league in the past. I've done UEFA Cup, but I kind of try and keep in touch. However, it's when the names part really upsets me because that is really not, for me, not making enough of an effort. So to answer the original question, I will say what I don't like, there are quite a few prominent commentators that use people think they're absolutely amazing. What they do is they script a lot of their commentary and it's very flowery language.
Okay.
Now, that's their style. It's not my style.
Okay.
I don't like it because I feel it sounds way too contrived, but it's beautiful language. Maybe I think, there's no harm in prepping a little bit in that sense, but you got to make it sound natural. And to me, it doesn't sound natural enough. But again, that's a stylistic thing.
Too much alliteration sometimes.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just a bit forced, too contrived.
Yeah, it's beyond what you would normally speak.
Right. Because
naturally, off the top of your head, yeah.
We are channeling you guys. We are channeling the viewers, right? Our job is you're seeing exactly the same pictures we are seeing. We're just now putting it to you, right? And in the way that we are viewing it. But when you start getting too flowery, for me, then you're kind of there's a disconnect.
You mentioned doing badminton and table tennis just now. Is it very different? Is anyone easier or more difficult than football?
This is a very good question. The tempo of football is great. Something was happening. The ball is in play, as we know, about an hour of a game. But even on a throw in or a corner or someone injured, there's plenty to talk about. When you are doing, and I just done the table tennis World Cup, which ended last night. First of all, you don't talk during the rally, right?
Yep.
So with badminton and table tennis, it's very stop-start. So it's a very different style of commentary. But at least there are uplifting moments and you can get excited, and that's great. Lots of replays. But when I've done golf commentary, when I first did it, I struggled because you have to make conversation about the most inane things, the pants he's wearing, the weather, and it was very down tempo, very quiet. You're almost whispering this, and that's a great shot. And I'm like, why am I whispering? There's no one around me because it's like a golf course, right? They always put the sign up. Each sport takes on a very different persona. And I've worked at Olympics and Asian Games and done, I don't know, 15, 20 sports. And everyone, you kind of have to gauge. Sometimes you're just thrown in last second. Okay. Oh, we got some shooting now. Oh, you got to go and do it. Again, shooting's not one to get excited about at the best of times. So you got to temper down how you do your reaction to what's going on. So yeah, badminton and table tennis are two that I do on the world feed, meaning I follow the world tour. Yeah, it took me a while to kind of get used to how they wanted it and what they expected out of me. But I like to think now that I've kind of found a groove to do those sports.
You mentioned shooting just now, and I think nobody's going to pretend that you're an expert for air rifle and all, but just wondering, so you talked about Olympics and having done this for such a long time. What's the weirdest sport or event that you've had to commentate on?
At the SEA Games, I got asked to do artistic gymnastics, which is with the ribbon and the ball.
Yeah.
And it was a last second thing.
Okay.
And I gotta say, I was dreading it, right? Guys, I felt like I was being, it was like commentator detention. I'd done something wrong and they were like, go do artistic gymnastics now. It felt like that because I knew nothing about it. It was last second. The beautiful thing about artistic gymnastics is you don't say anything during the routine. You let the pictures speak and there's music going on. And every so often you go, oh my goodness, fantastic. When there's great, a roll or a catch of the ball when it goes up high. And then at the end of it, you go, what a beautiful routine from so-and-so from wherever. And you just wax lyrical about it. Or if there was a mistake, you then refer to the drop ball or the ribbon not being caught. And then you quickly move on to the next. But it was painful. It was not one I enjoyed. But thankfully, I didn't have to say too much.
Has there been anything particularly strange or unbelievable that's happened while you were on a commentating job?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've seen crowds invading pitches. I've seen fights, arguments to the point where, bats flying around, rackets going, just very, very bizarre things. Oh, we had a fire once
A
in the
fire.
stadium
Huh.
in Jakarta. One of the lights on the roof just sort of caught fire, and it was a packed stadium. There's like 12,000 or 10,000 of us in there
Oof.
in the Istora Senayan, and they had to quickly stop the matches, and then they put the fire out. This was last year, so there are all sorts of things that can happen. That yeah, I mean, fire alarms have gone off. You don't know whether to stay or go.
Mm.
It gets a bit freaky at times, but I happen to do a lot of home commentary for Chinese Super League, and that comes with its own hazards, I might add. I've got my children wanting to burst in. They're wannabe commentators, so it is quite often a struggle. Or my wife has to kind of be like like a shepherd trying to gather the sheep before they a couple of loose ones run off. So whenever they have an opportunity, they like to come in and kind of capo on what I'm doing.
You mean doing remote commentary from home or somewhere
Remote
else?
commentary,
Yeah.
when I do it from home.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
Has remote commentary been a post-COVID thing, or did you do it before COVID?
I only started doing that during COVID, and it was a bit of a lifesaver, I must tell you, because with almost no work, in fact, I didn't work for about 4 months, which I found quite traumatizing, I have to say. I've been very blessed and fortunate that there's always been work around, but to have absolutely no work during the pandemic was something that still haunts me to this day. And you look at your bank account sort of going down as each day goes by. Yeah, it kind of worried me to the point where now, I want to take as much work as I can, and save up for a rainy day or another pandemic. Who knows? That just opens up another facet, right? Because it cuts costs for the broadcasters or event organizers, and it gives commentators like myself a lot more avenues to work. So that has been a great revolution, I would say, for our industry.
Just curious about something you said earlier about, like, when there's a pitch invasion or a fight happens during a match.
Yeah.
Do you have to continue with your commentary on that?
Now, this is a very good question, Ewan, because it also depends who you're working for, because you would like to be able to commentate on it. Quite often, I've been told we're going to take a break because the event organizer doesn't want those pictures to be seen, because it could be deemed to be embarrassing or cast them in a bad light. And you just say, we'll be back. But there have been moments where you just carry on, and then you you have to, your emotions take over, right? And you say disgraceful scenes, like I've seen players attack a referee and stuff.
Yep.
And then you're told in your ear, because you generally have headphones on, right? Okay, temper that down, or change the subject, or cut to something else. Don't go on about that. But then, so this is where sometimes, as a commentator, you struggle, because I think it's a really about a credibility thing, a reputational thing about, I think I need to be talking about what is being shown on the screen to you guys.
I think that's great, actually. Normally whenever you see the scenes of chaos happening on the pitch, right? There's always, I think there needs to be someone to explain what's happening, I think.
Now, okay, so the interesting part is sometimes we're not getting that information either, right? And remember, quite often we are not actually even in the venue, right? We might be doing it remotely. It may not be at home, but it might be in a little booth thousands of miles away. In fact, quite often I remember doing Argentinian League, and I think you all know how violent that can be, right? Oh, and you guys asked me about bizarre things. I mean, when guys take corners, Argentinian game, there's all sorts of crap being thrown on the pitch. Bad. It's really bad. And when goals are scored, they're all rushing to the front of there's a fence, right? It's all fenced up. It's old school. And I mean, I don't know how people are not injured or killed in that. I mean, people are killed, actually. But I've seen stuff going on, and there's security is always a big issue in Argentinian matches. And I've seen mini riots go on and stuff, but I can't tell you what's going on because I don't know what's going on.
Yep,
right.
Exactly.
I'm like frantically searching on Twitter or whatever to see if there's anything I can quickly glean. So yeah, there'll be instances where I don't know what's going on at that moment. So I'm just as in the
Okay.
dark, and all I can do is just try to paint you a picture and and glean whatever I can from the pictures.
Okay, Shazad, as someone who is a professional in doing sports or football a lot of the times, do you watch football in your free time as well?
I have to say I do, but it's not. I'm getting as I've got older and with responsibilities like children,
Mhm.
I only now really focus on my own team, and I really watch a lot less football than I used. Oh, the only other thing I do watch, it's like a religious thing for me, is the World Cup and the Euros. That's been
Yes.
since I've been a kid. But otherwise, I only want to watch my team now. I just don't have the time or bandwidth to sit down and watch other teams' matches now.
And what team is that?
Bit painful to say, but I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan.
Ah,
Ah.
Oh, what does that mean?
it's rare to find a Spurs fan in Singapore, but you did say
Really?
you studied in London, so it makes a bit more sense. Did you develop this fandom there, or
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I lived in the right side of North London. Let's just put it that
right?
way. And you had no choice in the school I was in. I was there for a couple of years when I was a kid, between 5 and 7, before I came back for primary school. And yeah,
Mm.
my love for Tottenham, fortunately, unfortunately, started there. Long suffering fan. You know, I would like to tell you guys, I've never missed a game. Last weekend, I had to do the Chinese Super League. What I do is when I have media work on, I always record it or watch the replay. And I promised my son after I do the Chinese Super League, we'll watch the game together. But as I turn the TV on to try and, do the time switch thing or whatever it's called, the score came up on the screen. And when I saw it's 4-0, I'm like, forget it. I'm not watching this. It's gonna be
Has your son inherited your Spurs fandom?
Well, I got two boys, and I also have a Man U loving wife. I know that'll be music to your ears,
Ooh.
guys. So 2012,
hmm
my wife is very heavily pregnant. I think it's September or so. Spurs are traveling to Old Trafford,
Mm.
and we haven't beaten you guys in about 25 years. And we decided to have a bet. Whoever wins the match today, our firstborn will support that club. I was like,
Ah.
why am I even doing this? And fine, I agreed to the bet. She was probably thinking, surefire win.
No
That
chance.
was the first win we had. Gareth Bale, Clint
Oh.
Dempsey, I think, got a couple goals. I know you guys will probably wipe this from your memory. Clearly, it's very fresh in mind. And yeah, I was delighted. Delighted, A, that we won, and B, I was gonna have my firstborn be a Spurs fan. You know what? She said we never shook hands, and she was right. We didn't shake hands. This is what you sneaky Man U people do, and he has manipulated our eldest one into being a Man U fan.
Mm.
And so when the second
Oh.
one was born, I said, you're not even touching him. Get away from him. So he is a Spurs fan with me. Now, many people might accuse my wife and I of child abuse at this point. But yeah, we have one Man U loving son and one Spurs fanatic. And I was lucky enough to bring my 7-year-old. He's now just turned 8, but we went to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in December to watch a match,
Oh, that's
which
Oh,
was a
nice.
cool.
fantastic experience. Yeah, fantastic
Cool,
experience
cool.
for us. Yeah.
How do you think that the team is doing this season under Ange Postecoglou?
Well, look, it couldn't have got any worse with what preceded it, right?
Mm.
So just about anyone else coming in was great. I'd been following Ange Postecoglou because I commentate on the J League.
Yes,
Mhm.
definitely. Yeah.
And I have to say, when the news first came through, I was panicking because they score lots of goals, but they concede plenty.
hmm
And hey, wouldn't you know it? That's exactly
Yeah,
what's
that's
happened.
exactly what's happening now. Yeah.
But everyone was enamored with him at the start. His insistence on the high line, his insistence of we go again, we keep at it, we don't change our way. All sounds great, all
Mm.
fantastic sound bites, all sounds like we die fighting kind of stuff. Fantastic. But you know what? It doesn't get you results, and
Mm.
the
Yeah.
team's getting found out. Frankly speaking, it, Injuries, suspensions, all that. Yep, but that happens to everyone else. So it's got to come down to some tactical tweak. And where Ange is very similar to Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte is his stubborn insistence on sticking to what he feels is best. Now, you got to respect the conviction of people like that, but when you are clearly lacking in certain facets of a game where that is being exploited, where it's glaringly obvious to every person watching how a problem can be fixed. And I know I'm speaking as someone who's not a coach, but there are ways to plug problems and gaps. You guys as Man U fans know exactly what I'm talking about. And
Yep.
I just wish, I mean, Ten Hag's the same. He's also a stubborn guy. Just wish that there would be some kind of compromise. I just go back to the 4-1 that Spurs had lost to Chelsea, where fine, they only conceded the last few goals in the last couple of minutes. They were virtually on the halfway line, guys.
That was the game you had 2 red cards
two red
Two red cards, yeah.
and Madison got injured, and Van der Ven went off. It was madness. Now people want to talk about, we went down in a blaze of glory, but hey, we could have got a draw out of that had we just played our cards right and just stuck being just a bit lower. I don't see the problem in. We don't always have to play the swashbuckling stuff 90 minutes of the time. It's just not sustainable. So look, I am delighted that we are no longer with Antonio Conte, and I love the positivity coming out of the club. But I think sometimes there's no harm in being a little bit more pragmatic. And I hope with more signings, more time to bed in the players, the Ange style comes in. I just know he wins leagues wherever he goes. He bamboozles teams, but with all due respect, he's been in different leagues that are not the Premier League, and they're beginning to cotton on to what he's doing. And so I hope we see something a bit different next season, and that the trophy wait finally ends.
I'd rather Spurs win than City or Liverpool.
Well, yeah, you would say that.
Or Arsenal, yeah.
Or Arsenal.
Thank you for adding that in.
So
yes,
if you see Michael Carrick or Dimitar Berbatov on the street, would you or your wife be happier?
that's a good question. I mean, look, I love both those players. To me, Berbatov, I love the languid, laid-back style. People always think, called him lazy and all that, but the guy was stylo Milo, man. He was so good to watch. I just love the control that he had. The finishing, to me, one of the most naturally gifted footballers around. And I think very unfairly got a lot of criticism. But look, I think one thing we all have to remember, and having worked with a lot of footballers, it is just a job to them. All this loyalty rubbish, right? That's what we fans are deluded into thinking. When Berbatov and Carrick left, yeah, I was annoyed. Yeah, I was pissed off. But you know what? They were going to somewhere that was going to pay them better. And hey, they might get some trophies out of it. Who wouldn't go? Think about a job. If you got a better paying job at a more renowned company that's going to get you further in life, of course you're going to go, right? So Tottenham, we need to know our place in where we are. We are the 6th of the big 6, and we are punching above our weight quite often. So we will lose the good players at some point, and we have to accept that. So I don't begrudge players that leave our club.
So what about Harry Kane?
Oh, he's dead to me. No, I'm kidding.
Because he left and isn't going to win a trophy.
Well, he's not going to win anything this season, so.
I know. And ironically, there's a German word for it called Schadenfreude, where you take pleasure in the
suffering of others, yeah.
Yeah. And look, you want the best. You would like to think you want the best for everyone. I just feel bad. You have to laugh a little bit. You have to laugh. To go to what would be, guys, let's face it, a sure. I mean, you bet your house on Kane getting something this season, and to potentially come away with nothing. I do feel from this whole curse thing that's going on right now, but it's kind of funny. Look, it's delighted me that they beat Arsenal. I'm over the moon, even though that might actually sabotage Tottenham's chances, ironically, in the Champions League, getting a spot. It just makes it even better that he scored a penalty against them, and that Arsenal fans are up in arms about it. But yeah, I would like for him to get a trophy after we get one.
Speaking about trophies, yeah, who do you think will win the Premier League this season? What's your prediction?
Oh, I'm all in for City now. I only want City to
Yeah,
win anyway, but after the last couple of matches, it's been beautifully set up now for the usual City
yeah,
last few games of the season.
yep,
Just see it through to the end. I think we're all agreeing on that.
yeah.
And you got to say they've bottled it. I'm sorry, they've choked, and it's great to see Arsenal do it for 2 seasons in a row. It's fantastic. And I'm not a sentimentalist, but Liverpool fans probably annoy me more than even Arsenal fans.
Really?
Huh.
And they want to give Jurgen the send off, and they're playing proper football, and everyone else is beneath them. And it's just joyous to see that they're not going to win. Hopefully. I can
Hopefully.
only keep my
Hopefully,
fingers
yeah.
crossed. Yeah,
Hopefully.
you
Yeah,
guys agree with me. I know that.
yeah. I mean, best case scenario, I was speaking to Ewan about this yesterday, I think, was that if Liverpool finished the season with as many trophies as Man United.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'll say this. I'm grateful that Man U have deprived them of the FA Cup. So that I'm pleased about. Yeah, well
Yeah.
done, guys. Thank you for playing your part this season.
Yep.
Yes.
Barely.
Just
Barely.
about.
Just about. Yep.
Yeah.
You mentioned the World Cup and Euros just now that you would religiously watch. Any predictions for the Euros in Germany this summer?
Oh, well, good question. I mean, you can't discount France, right?
Mhm.
With
Mhm.
the kind of players that they have. I'm no longer the England supporter that I was as a boy because I grew up there. In fact, a lot of English football kind of annoys me now. The England football thing annoys me quite a lot now. There is a certain degree of entitlement.
It's coming
It's
home.
coming home.
Yeah, it's coming home thing. But I will say this, I think a lot of that is quite ironic. My English friends just often throw that around and start laughing. I think English people are very good at being self-deprecating, and they know they're not the power that they think that they want people to think that they are. But maybe if they want it now, they wouldn't talk about 1966 anymore. And also, to be honest, as much as I like Gareth Southgate and what he stands for, I do not like him as a tactician. He's way too safe and
Mhm.
frankly dull in his tactics.
Mhm.
And if they continue to not allow the kind of players that they have to express themselves, then I don't see them going very far. But I am very partial to the likes of Holland and Portugal, being of slight Dutch and Portuguese heritage. So those are teams I quite often get behind.
Do you have a favorite player?
Uh, Son Heung-min for me,
Mm.
just because Asian player, you know,
Spurs.
not yeah, Spurs obviously, but it's yeah, of course, that comes first. But it's so great to see an Asian player who has crossed over into the consciousness. He's ignited the imagination of many Asians
Mm,
because of his infectious love for the game, right?
mm.
And if you talk to any footballer, even non-Tottenham ones, they often speak of his joy
Mhm.
and what a happy character he is and what a gentleman and how respectful he is to others. I'm sure you guys will have seen stuff on social media, even when he gets interviewed and the way he puts down a mic with two hands. It's all very, very respectful. I've been lucky enough to have met him a couple times when Tottenham came here. Just a really nice person.
Mm.
And I think he's a brilliant advertisement for what Asian footballers could do in English football. And now he's a captain as well. So, he shoulders responsibilities and he delivers the goods. And I would love, love, love for someone like that to lift the trophy one day for us. If you're talking about an all-time great player for me, I would pick Glenn Hoddle. Growing up with
Mhm.
obviously supporting Tottenham, and I mean the guy was a magician on the ball that probably never quite got his due at international level.
Cool. Not Paul Gascoigne.
Look, cheeky fella. I love his football skills. Maybe I guess some of his off-field antics maybe seeping into some of my opinion of him. But yeah, I mean a wonderful footballer, and England kind of lacked someone like that
Yeah.
Mm.
outside of Gaza for a long, long time. Now they've got a lot more naturally gifted footballers, but he was kind of a diamond in the rough, wasn't he?
So, Shazad, you mentioned earlier that you're annoyed when commentators butcher Asian names. Is there anything else that annoys you?
Yeah, I mean, from a commentating point of view, yeah, the one about Asian names is obviously one that gets me. But the nightmare scenario I've had, and I've had it recently actually, is jersey numbers not being visible, clear on the
Ah.
jerseys. As it is at the best of times,
Mm.
I don't have the best eyesight. The two of you are wearing glasses. I actually have a pair of reading glasses. I'm just too vain right now and in denial that I need them. So I
Mm.
very rarely wear my reading glasses. And Korea, I do commentate a lot of Korea matches. And I can't, they wear translucent, it's something about the numbers on their jerseys. And they don't, they refuse, they've been told by broadcasters, by plenty of people to change it, but they don't. So whenever I do career games, I really struggle. And I just don't understand why they insist on these numbers on their backs.
Mm.
You just
Mhm.
cannot see it. And I thought it's because I'm colorblind and I have sight problems, but everyone around me has backed me up. And the broadcaster has actually said to the KFA, like, guys, please change these numbers. And they haven't done it so far. So that's one. The other thing is more from I guess a fan point of view is, and it's getting rectified now, is the amount of time that's wasted on a pitch and that doesn't get added on.
Mm.
And now I think we're slowly seeing that come in.
Mhm.
And we're now getting, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. And hopefully, as ridiculous as it may be to see 15 minutes come up on the board, it might actually then show players, look, if you don't want that, then maybe don't waste time so much. I mean, maybe there should be a day when we get a stop clock,
Mm.
and then we actually get fans actually get their 90 minutes, bang for the buck. People are paying stupid money in the Premier League to come and watch football.
Yeah.
We are paying it through our subscription fees. They're paying it through tickets. Maybe we should get our 90 minutes worth.
Do
Yeah.
you think it'll come to the point, Shazad, where so much time is added on that you as a commentator have to charge more?
Now you're talking. No, there is a real fear. If we get 90 minutes, that's actually 90 minutes of action is a long time.
Mm.
Is a long, long time. It would mean going probably, I would say about 2 hours. So yeah, that's a good point. I should charge more.
I will happily take a bit of commission on that.
Yes. Thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, so I know you're a very busy man. What's on the agenda next few weeks?
I'm flying off to China in a few days. There's the Thomas and Uber Cup, which is effectively the men's and women's World Cup of badminton.
Mhm.
Then I fly from there to Jeddah, and it's the Saudi Arabia is now cashing in on table tennis. It's the latest
really?
sport it's getting
Huh,
involved
okay.
in.
Saudi
So
Arabia.
it's yeah. So we're gonna have the Saudi Smash, which is like a grand slam of table tennis in Jeddah. And then, of course, the SPL starts in a few weeks' time. And I'm really
Mm.
looking forward to that. It's been a long, long time. This is the longest gap I've ever had without working on the SPL because it ended end of last year and the season starts in a couple of weeks.
Just before we let you go, earlier you did say that sometimes the commentary pool or community is a bit small, quite tight-knit at times. Do you have any advice for people looking to become a commentator?
Yeah, can you just wait till I retire and then maybe?
Don't take
No,
your
I mean,
spot.
no, look, of course, look, I get asked this quite a lot. And I think, many people probably fancy themselves. Oh, I could do that. Talk about football. Why not? I do it down at the coffee shop or the pub or whatever. My friends, no problem. And they don't know the kind of effort that we put in, the preparation, and we've kind of talked about that. But you've got to have first and foremost is you really got to try and know the sport or the league that you're talking about, right?
Mm.
As I mentioned to you before, unfortunately, I've seen that it's quite clear that the commentator I've been listening to doesn't know the league. Now, it's not easy when that league is thousands of miles away, but try to get to know more than just the perfunctory stuff. If it's not a league you're familiar with, get to know it a little bit better. But I think for me, apart from the knowledge, because actually, like I said, the main thing is to be calling what you're seeing on the screen, right?
Mm.
So know your sport well, but more than that is confidence. If you're not a confident person, if you're not able to sound authoritative, you get found out very quickly. Now, we all have to
Mm.
start somewhere. I agree.
Mhm.
But maybe start your expectations low. You're not going to walk in straight into even an SPL.
Mm.
Start with practice at home, record something, try it out. Because once you're in front of that mic, I've seen people freeze. And there's an art form to being able to talk till the cows come home. I'm sure you guys have heard that phrase.
Yeah.
And that is thankfully something that I'm blessed with. Thankfully for me, but maybe not thankfully for my wife or people around me. Maybe you guys. I've been babbling on for a long time here, but I can go on and on and on. And it's not an easy thing to do.
Mm.
And when you start panicking, oh, I need to fill up the time. I need to find something else to talk about. You know, there's no action going on, for example. There's been a foul and the guy's on the ground is receiving treatment. It's 2 or 3 minutes. What am I going to do?
Mm.
That's when the prep comes in, or that's when you try to color the picture, talk about the crowd, give us a sense of the atmosphere. So you got to think quick on your feet. You've got to be confident. You've got to be prepared. I think these are all really, really important elements. And if you have ambitions of being a commentator, practice, 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 off air, record some stuff, and keep at it. And, you know, you have to be able to speak well. Kind of got to temper down the Singlishness or the Singaporean sounding. I'm not saying lose it, but I'm saying these are all important factors. And you asked me, what's the advice? These are the things I think that would make it work for them.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Shazad. And I guess what you're saying is not to lose who you are, but to recognize what the market and the audience wants.
Right. Right. Totally
Yeah.
agree. Exactly. You don't want to lose sight of yourself, but you also have to remember someone else is paying the bills. So you have to take that into consideration as well.
And we should take your travel plans into consideration as well, Shazad. So we'll not hold you back any longer. Thanks for your time. It was really fun.
Thank you for your time, Shazad.
Hey guys, thanks. I enjoyed that. It was that was a lot of fun.
Very good. Very good.
So let us know your thoughts about this episode, whether you like the content or not. You can drop us an email or leave a comment or reach out to us through our social media channels. Links are all in the descriptions. So till next time, see ya.
See you, everybody. Don't stack your dishes.